Good afternoon, welcome to Chat ENG and my reaction to England reaching the semi-finals of the European Championships with a penalty shootout win against Switzerland last night. Gareth Southgate was at pains to say in any interview I heard him have last week that we don't need to play well. It's not just about the performance. That was a theme in everything he said, and there looks to be a little bit of a narrative within this team that I think he's put onto them, which is we don't need to play well, so why would we? It looks like they're holding something in reserve. It looks like they're they've almost got a point to prove that they can do it the difficult way if they need to. Um, Obscure as that might sound, that's what it looks like because England were better last night. There was more shape. There was more cohesiveness. They passed the ball an awful lot better. They did the basic things that they haven't been doing. They did those better. There was in the first half, whenever Switzerland had a goal kick and they tried to take it short, they were finding it difficult to get out because there was, at times watching it on TV, there was 6 or 7 white shirts in the frame, and that's definitely a shift from what we've seen in the previous games. England basically did what they've done well under Southgate previously. They did well again last night, but let's not get carried away. We didn't create one chance in 120 minutes of football. And I would go as far to say that there was no intent to win the game from England. There was no intent to score a goal until Switzerland scored, and then we had to. We were very happy, it looked like, to just play half decent, keep the ball, knock it about. At times it looked like we were 3-0 up. There was no urgency, there was no dynamism, there was nobody apart from Saka expressing themselves. You have to score goals to win games, except I suppose you don't in tournament football, as was proved to some degree last night. So I think, as I said last week, Southgate is kind of deliberately, I think, holding something back because he perhaps thinks that we've peaked too early in other tournaments. I think there's a stubbornness to him, and I think also he doesn't particularly think we need to play well. And then the players are going, well, why should we then? Let's just do it the hard way. So better, yes, but you can't say that was a good performance last night. You could say the England showed character again because we were a goal down with 75 minutes gone. I mean, that's late in the day to concede a goal in a major championship quarter final, but they didn't panic. They stayed calm. But it's an individual moment of brilliance from Saka. So what I said before, Saka scored a goal. We scored a goal, but we haven't created a chance in the game because that wasn't a chance. It was just a piece of brilliance from Saka. So is it character or is it individuals breaking free of the leash and showing what they're capable of? I would argue it's that. For about 5 minutes after we scored, I think there looked to be some intent maybe to go and try and win the game and utilise the momentum that we had. There was a bounce from the goal, but as soon as it got to 85, 86 minutes, it was let's just see it out to extra time. And then in extra time, there may as well have been a gentleman's agreement to just call it there and go to penalties because neither team really looked to be that fussed about winning the game. But penalties, wow. I've got football-based PTSD with penalties because of the experiences predominantly with England of watching them. 1990, 1996, 1998, 2004, 2006, 2012 and the Euros last time. So 7 major tournaments where England have been knocked out on penalties in my lifetime, and it's heartbreaking. The players that stepped up last night that didn't look scarred by those experiences. Some of them weren't even born for a lot of those shootouts. But of course, Saka was a victim of abuse after missing a penalty, the decisive penalty against Italy in the European Championship final last time out. So he showed great nerve to take it. But mentally, they've obviously done a lot of work. I think they've probably done a lot of work with the science behind penalties, like where a goalkeeper goes, etc. But penalties is mainly if you can keep your nerve and if you can keep your psychology good. And they were brilliant. Palmer is a young lad, really, it's his first tournament, and he just looks so calm. He's taking the first penalty. Brilliant. Bellingham's never going to miss. Saka's a great story, obviously, because he missed that penalty, as I said, and it was a super penalty. And I say to my lads, coach, go bottom corner. Keeper ain't going to save it in the bottom corner. And I think all 5 of our penalties last night were in the bottom corner. Tony's no-look penalty is ridiculous. I think to have the nerve to do that at such a big stage is incredible. It was like he was taking a pen for Brentford in a pre-season game. I don't even know how you can do that. Like Gary Lineker said, he would probably just miss the ball if he wasn't looking. Phenomenal. And then credit Southgate with the Trent one, because Southgate's learned his lesson in the Euros final 3 years ago. He brought Rashford and Sancho on specifically to take penalties, but he brought them on with seconds remaining. So they hadn't even had a kick of the ball. He brought Trent on with 5 minutes to go, which just gave him a little bit more of a chance. It wasn't just his first touch, wasn't the penalty. And a great pen, and happy for him, obviously, and great that Pickford. In Pickford, we've got someone who's got a bit of shithousery about him. He fancies himself in penalty shootouts, and he obviously saved one, which was enough in the end. But it's great to see us look like we can handle that, and look like they relished it. And it comes back to what I said earlier. I think there's an element of, we'll show you we can do it the hard way if we need to. But I don't mean any disrespect to Switzerland when I say this. It just all seems very unnecessary. Like, did we really need to get to penalties to beat Switzerland? I'm not being arrogant or entitled or anything like that. Switzerland are a good team, and I'm not saying we deserve just to go out and steamroller them 3-0. But you don't know unless you try. There was no intent to win that game. It looked from minute one like England were happy with just playing a little bit better, and if we needed to, we'd get a goal like an equaliser if we needed one. But it just felt like they were waiting for penalties, which is a really risky business. As I say, for me, it just felt all very unnecessary. Play better play with more intent, try and express yourselves. Saka was the main guy, and a few times in the first half he got to the byline, he cut it back. Who's busting a gut to get in there? No one. So it's been a weird old tournament by England, it really has. Some other positives though. Good to see Luke Shaw back, and I thought he looked pretty decent considering he's been out for 5 months. I thought he looked okay, and I think probably can play some part on Wednesday. And if we got through to the final, I'm sure could again play a part in that, which is a great option to have. Palmer's becoming a real impact sub for England. I think he makes a difference every time he comes on. We can shout from the rooftops that we want him to start, but it's not going to happen. But at least we know that we've got an option on the bench that can come on and really make a difference. And it's simple stuff. He's direct, he's confident, he's calm, he's cool. He just wants to take players on, and he's very skillful and he's very good. And I think he's got some magic in him if we needed a goal. So a player who's consistently came on and made a difference, which is really positive. And maybe the biggest overall positive is that we were a little bit better last night. And is it that Southgate is saying, he's almost like he's got them on a leash, and he's letting them go a bit, and then he's bringing them back, and then he's letting them go a bit, and he's bringing them back? And is it that semi-final against Holland, he lets them go a little bit more to do what they need to do to get through that one, and then the final we peak? I think that's fanciful, but maybe that's what's happening here, because there's definitely something in them not wanting to peak too early. I think without a doubt, I can see that there's a narrative there that to do with that. Just to finish on Southgate, I've always defended him and stuck up for him because he's given me something no other England manager has given me, especially not for a long time. Between 2006 and 2016, it was a hard watch. I was disillusioned as an England fan. You're going into tournaments with more hope than expectation, and to be honest, towards the latter stages of that era, I would say there wasn't even much hope going into those tournaments. And then in 2018, I saw a team that wanted to play for their country again, that showed pride in playing for their country, like players from Portugal and Argentina and the Eastern European countries seem to show. Um, there was a connection between the team and the nation. We got to the semi-final. The following tournament, we got to the final, and it's not been brilliant to watch. But I've forgiven that because consistently he's given me things, Southgate, that other managers haven't been able to. And the proof's in the pudding. England from 1966 until when Southgate took over had reached two semi-finals in 50 years, and we've reached three semi-finals in 4 years under Southgate. There's no conspiracy theory in terms of easy routes to semi-finals or easy routes to finals. You play who's put in front of you. You top your group, and you're in the side of the draw that you're in. You have to beat who's in front of you. You could argue that in the 50 years building up to Southgate being England manager, in the Euros, you got out of the group and you were straight into the quarterfinals. You're only 2 games away from a final after you get out of the group. There's now another added game in there. You could argue the opposition are probably not as good, maybe, but you can play what's in front of you. And for it to be 2 semi-finals in 50 years and then 3 in the last 4 tournaments, and by the way, we were robbed by France in the World Cup by the officiating, which I keep going on about, but we could have got to a semi-final there. You know, you've got to give him credit for that. For me, this is the worst tournament I've watched under Southgate, but by a country mile. Maybe my threshold for what I expect is different, but I think he's been poor. I think he's been indecisive. I think he's been stubborn. Indecisive in terms of making changes and just sticking with something because it almost looks like he doesn't really know what to do. But then whenever he's made subs, they've made a difference. But it always feels like he's a bit late. I think he's been incredibly stubborn with the way he set the team out. Yesterday, again, the goal from Switzerland was coming. It was for 5 or 10 minutes. That was clear that something needed to change, and we just walked our way into that goal. It was a sucker punch because we were playing like we were 3-0 up, and there was no urgency, and they were just becoming further and further on top. I mean, it's diverting slightly, but John Stones for the goal should do so much better than he did, and obviously we didn't defend the back post very well either. But it's just a crap goal to concede, but it was coming. Then he makes the changes, and again we don't panic as a team when we get back in the game. Congratulations to the team, but I think you can call it that we've done it this way by design, and you can say we've done this because of Southgate. I think we've done it in spite of him, and I think so far we've been very fortunate. And in international football, it is about individual players a lot of the time that just come up and make something happen. And fortunately for England, we've got those players in Bellingham and Saka. Foden's still yet to do it in this tournament, but he's capable of doing it. Kane can always get you a goal. Palmer off the bench. We've got those players that can come on and make a difference, but that's what we're getting by on, is moments. But yeah, you know, as I say, there we are, third semi-final in 4 tournaments. So we'll see what that brings. I think Holland is a very different test, and I watched them last night, and they got back in the game against Turkey. As soon as it was 1-1, they went for the jugular. They're not messing about. They're not trying to go to extra time or penalties or just holding on to what they've got. Turkey pushed them close at the end and created a couple of dangerous moments for them, and I think we can get at them, but we don't look like we want to get at teams. There's no intent to attack. There's no intent to hurt teams. We didn't lay a glove on Switzerland yesterday. 120 minutes and not one chance created. There's only so often you can keep playing like that and get through. And you've got to look at the Netherlands as well. We've played 2 lots of extra time. They breezed past Romania 3-0, and they won in normal time yesterday. So we played an hour extra. We're not going to win 3 penalty shootouts out of 3. So at some point, we've got to go and try and win a game of football. Maybe we're heading towards that, as I say. Maybe we're going to peak at the right time. But I'd have the Netherlands as favourites going into this game. But I'll do a proper preview of that probably in a couple of days' time. I said before the tournament, you know, I wanted us to go deep. I wanted us to get to, you know, roughly a quarter or a semi-final, and believe, you know, you could do it. We're in the conversation, and that's what's happened. We're where I wanted us to be, and yet it doesn't feel the same as those other tournaments, as the World Cup in 18 and then in the Euros last time out. There's something different. It's a weird atmosphere. Maybe it's the way we've done it. I don't know. I did feel emotional when we won on penalties last night. I was delighted for the team. But there's a slight disconnect there, and who knows? Maybe that changes if we get to a final. But it's a weird one. But we're there. We're in the semi-final, and let's hope finally it's coming home.